Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Aristoya, back with me, Rehan Azrakim. And today we are going to discuss about comparative literature and decoloniality. We'll start with the definition. Decoloniality is an odd word that cannot be found in an English dictionary, and the closest common word in English is decolonialization. Decoloniality, which means the withdrawal from its former colonies and colonial power. Decoloniality has a different meaning from decolonialization, otherwise it would be a superfluous term, and on the other hand, that is paired with coloniality, which in its return should differ from colonization. Decoloniality has been coined by Latin American scholars from sociologists and philosophers to anthropologists, semanticians, and literary critics with the project of a critical understanding of modernity. Decoloniality has been coined by Latin American scholars from sociolinguists and philosophers to anthropologists, semioticians, and literary critics within the project of a critical understanding of modernity. In 1991, the Peruvian sociologist Aníbal Quijano published an article titled Colonialidad, Modernidad Racionalidad, in which the distinction between colonization, the coloniality, was first made as it was later used by members of the Grupo Modernidad or Colonialidad, group modernity or coloniality. According to Quijano, whereas colonialism may be over as a political order after the post-1945 decolonization, coloniality is still active as the most widespread method of domination across the world. So here the difference between post-colonialism and decoloniality. The difference between post-colonialism and decoloniality is when an influential definition of the former stresses that it is the prefix post that complicates matters because it implies an aftermath in two sense, temporal as in coming after, and ideological as in supplanting. It is the second implication, which critics of the term have found contestable in the inequities of colonial rule have not been erased. It is perhaps premature to proclaim the demise of colonialism. According to the leading decolonial thinker Walter D. Mignolo, the difference lies in that while the colonial shift is a project of the linking, post-colonial criticism and theory is a project of scholarly transformation within the academy. And here are some fun facts about decoloniality. While the concept of decoloniality emerged progressively in Mignolo's writing, reference to comparativism fade away, though more slowly than reference to comparative literature. Here are the explanation for the fun fact. In his 1991 article, Canon and Corpus, comparative literature is still a discipline that may be applied to literatures in colonial situation, provided that two caveats are taken into consideration and two questions posed. As for the caveats, Mignolo points that, on one hand, comparative literature is a European invention rooted in the comparatism that emerged during the expansion of the Portuguese and Spanish empires, when the transition from three major languages of scholarship, the Greek, Latin, and Hebrew, to Western national languages and national literatures. As a result of the configuration of nation states took place on the other hand. On the other hand, in contrast to the specific location of comparative literature, is an invention of Western Europe. Comparative processes are universally shared by human beings. As for the two questions A transfiguration of comparative literature requires, according to Mignolo, one to wonder first, what could a comparatist compare? And second, who is comparing what and from where? So we have seen that comparative literature has some similarities with the comparative philosophy. So here are the similarities between comparative philosophy and comparative literature. There are some similarities between both disciplines, and as traditionally practiced, transcendental philosophy may be equated with a Eurocentric comparative literature that sees modern US European literature as literary art at its best, in relation to which other literatures will never be coherent. Structural philosophy may be equated with a comparative literature that classifies literary similarities across the world as either genetic contacts or typological affinities, as linguistic philosophy focuses on how a language determines the way of a philosophical problem is phrased. This variety may be equated with the growing importance of translation for comparative literature, and phenomenological philosophy may be equated with either the traditional binary analysis of rapport de fait or East-West studies. And that's it for our decoloniality explanation. Thank you for watching and see you again in another video.